Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very accomplished entrepreneur from Singapore, Mr. Vincent Wei. Vincent, welcome to the show.
Hi, Ashutosh. Very nice meeting you, and thank you for inviting me to the show.
Thank you. Vincent is the co-founder of Archisen, which is a Singapore-based Agritech company focused on urban farming. They have a brand titled Just Produce, which brings fresh, nutritious salads. I'm assuming currently in Singapore and hopefully in a larger geography later. So,
Yes,
Vincent,
that's right.
Vincent, let's start talking about urban farming. First, tell me, what is urban farming and what are the different forms of urban farming?
So urban farming generally refers to urban farming in urban areas, such as in the cities or urbanized areas. And in these locations, there is usually a higher cost of land and labor.
Correct.
And hence, there is a need to have better utilization of spaces. To provide a context to how urban farms are categorized, we first look at how they are enclosed. I'm going to use urban vegetable farms to provide this illustration. So they could either be in the open air, in containers, in buildings, or in greenhouses. And in terms of location, they can be located on rooftops, industrial buildings, shopping malls, parking lots, and even underground. And thirdly, we take a look at the types of growing systems that are typically used in urban farms, such as soil-based systems and hydroponics systems, such as deep water culture, vertical towers, or nutrient film techniques. And the main benefits of urban farming relate to the short distance between the farm and the point of purchase. So it is fresher, and there is less carbon miles during transport. There's also less food wastage in the process. Because it is produced by the local community, it enhances food resilience. And lastly, because the environment is controlled, there is better taste, better nutritional value, and there isn't a need to use pesticides.
Very interesting. So, Vincent, one of the challenges that has always been faced with farming is that the economics of farming is never enough for the farmer. It's always the people in the middlemen and at the marketplace and the retail where all the money gets made. How are you changing the economics in much smaller format farms, which are presumably going vertical and through hydroponics?
Yeah, thanks for the question. And it is certainly a problem when you have many middlemen in between.
Correct.
Especially when there are various parties involved in transport, storage, which further leads to food spoilage in the process.
Correct.
With urban farms, you could be located smack in the middle of a city, or you could be located on top of a restaurant or within the restaurant, and the consumers who want to purchase the vegetables could get it something that is harvested literally minutes ago. For example, one of our solutions is called Just Harvest. And it is a solution that provides a food establishment with a continuous refillable supply of vegetables that are ready to harvest. The difference between Just Harvest and typical growing systems that you see in restaurants or grocers is that you have the ability to refill it very similar to an espresso capsule or a printer cartridge with ready to harvest mature plants, so that you can harvest them immediately and not need to wait for a period of time for them to grow. And so you then have these decentralized systems that can be placed in restaurants, cafes, shopping malls, grocers, schools, nursing homes, and even offices And this really cuts out the middleman in the process.
Wow. And, when I was reading about you and from whatever little understanding I have of farming, you're actually turning the whole paradigm of farming on its head. It was always large farms, mechanized harvesting techniques, collections, distribution, etc. Now you're taking it into the center of the city. And I'm imagining smaller farms. How do economics of urban farming work?
Okay, so and that's a great question. There's always a concern about the economics around it, whether it's profitable, whether it's investable, whether it's sustainable. And over the past 5 to 10 years, technology in this area has progressed rapidly in the areas of automation, the ability to use very dense spaces or maximize the use of underutilized spaces, as well as the ability to cut short the delivery costs as you're located very close to the point of purchase. There is less carbon miles in the process, and there's less spoilage as well. The yields are also very much higher when you produce it in a controlled environment. How we look to tackle this issue is we have commercial farm, or we have a big commercial farm that produces the vegetables, and we have a decentralized method of reaching out to the various touch points, as I mentioned earlier, using our just harvest systems. These little systems occupy less than a meter square in space, and they are then able to very easily reach out to all these different touch points while maintaining the highly productive farming to be done in the commercial farm, which is usually on the outskirts of the city.
Interesting. So let's talk about your three main solutions. We've spoken about Just Harvest, but you also have Cropdom, Just Produce, and Just Harvest. Can you tell me a little bit about each of these?
Yes. Cropdom is actually a short form for Crop Kingdom. And this represents a turnkey solution that we provide so that anyone, even if they do not know anything about agriculture, can profit from this venture.
Okay.
In our innovative business model, we design and build the farm, as well as grow and distribute the crops, taking care of the entire end-to-end solution. Our indoor cultivation system has 100 times the yield of traditional farms, and we use 90% less water than rural farming. We also have numerous crop recipes in our database, and our systems are powered by automation and analytics. And perhaps I could just touch a bit about Just Produce.
Sure, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Just Produce is the brand of our vegetables. Maybe I can share how this name came about. So when we first started the company, we noticed that many vegetables on the shelves were not pesticide-free. And the problem with pesticides is that once they get on your vegetables, they are almost impossible to wash away, almost regardless of how hard you try. And nobody I know likes pesticides in their food.
Correct.
So we feel that customers deserve vegetables just as they are. No pesticides, no preservatives, and no GMOs. The next thing is that we observed that many of the vegetables travel long distances from Malaysia, China, Australia, or even Italy just to get to Singapore. And we felt that consumers should have the right to buy vegetables that are just freshly harvested because they taste better and there's less carbon footprint. And lastly, we wanted to make or create an identity for fresh produce that Singaporeans can feel connected to and whose values they resonate with. Eating Just Produce means that you support local farms, drive sustainable farming practices, and contribute to the country's food security.
Fascinating. So, we've spoken a lot about all the positives of urban farming. What are some of the challenges that you face?
Okay. So There are various challenges faced by vertical farming, or let's say indoor farming. Although you do have a lot of benefits relating to the ability to keep out pests, use very little water, and you can fit into readily available spaces. The first one is the lack of highly skilled labor. So Singapore does not have many farms, unlike other countries.
Correct.
We don't have an agriculture university. And hence, the lack of farmers with the right skill sets is a big challenge in scaling our operations.
Correct.
Because it takes perhaps 3 to 6 months to train up these workers, depending on their responsibilities. As a new industry, it is not really easy to attract farmers. And some of them do not come with the right expectations. Some of them think that because it's high tech, therefore work would be very easy. On the contrary, there's a certain level of complexity in our operations, and to run it like a finely tuned machine. Hence, we need to attract farmers who are willing to learn and have the right mindset to stay with us in our journey, to supply Singapore with fresh produce. The second challenge I would like to just talk about would be relating to energy costs. Recently, due to various things happening around the world, there's an increase in energy prices.
Correct.
And energy costs are a portion of our operational costs due to the need to control internal temperatures and the use of grow lighting to optimize plant growth. So the recent increase in energy costs does have this impact on operational costs. We do see this as an impact in the short term, and we are also investing in technologies to reduce energy costs while maintaining the same yield and the quality of crops.
Amazing. And
we are also...
Sorry, go ahead, please.
Yeah, we're also looking to use renewable energy as a key component of our future plans.
Amazing. But Vincent, tell me, in a country like Singapore, which does not have the luxury of too much land, and whatever is there is expensive, do you see urban farming as something that will evolve into balconies in high-rise buildings and the few landed properties that are there in their gardens? Do you see it growing all over?
Yes, certainly in the past 1 or 2 years, we do see this as a trend. It could be due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We see many people, starting to spend more time at home. They learn to cook at home. They are focused on becoming more health conscious. We see a trend towards healthy diets, vegetable diets, or even vegan diets.
Correct.
And so a lot of people are becoming more aware of how to grow food at home. It could be in their balcony, it could be in their rooftop, it could be even in the home. And Singapore, and to your point about Singapore's land and labor being expensive, this increases the importance of using underutilized spaces.
Correct.
Whether it's underground, buildings that are still empty, or even rooftops to actually grow produce. And the government has been promoting and supporting many initiatives to use these underutilized spaces, and they have grants to support these as well. So it is a very strong push, not only from the government, but also from the education and from consumers to want to grow produce, as well as them seeing the value behind it.
And which are some of the vegetables or the produce which lend themselves to a quick adaptation for urban farming?
I think leafy vegetables have a lower barrier to entry in terms of growing. So very often I see people growing vegetables like lettuces, even Asian greens like your nai pai, xiao pai chai, and kangkong even. And I think leafy vegetables are easier to grow as compared to fruiting crops like your tomatoes, strawberries, which typically take a much longer time to stabilize, to flower, and eventually to fruit.
And what I'm hearing you say, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that the produce that you are encouraging the growth of in some of these farms is something that can be taken straight to the kitchen or straight to the plate, and no serious processing is involved in it. Would that be a right statement?
Yes, I think because you know how the vegetables are grown, and because you can see how the vegetables are grown, there's a lot more assurance on the quality of the vegetable and the cleanliness of how it is being produced, as opposed to it being grown somewhere thousands of miles away and you don't know what goes on.
Correct.
And so, for example, if you don't grow the vegetables yourselves, you would still wash it, but there's a better trust. And there's a better connection to the food because you know that it is grown without the use of harmful pesticides.
And Vincent, I'm not an expert in agriculture, but logically, whenever there is any kind of agricultural activity, there are pests of some kind or the other. How do you think small urban farms and individual homes be able to handle pests, especially in a country like Singapore, which is so conscious about it?
Right. So maybe I can just share a bit about vertical farms or indoor farms.
Yeah.
Pests are not really a challenge because as compared to an outdoor field, the growing environment is enclosed in an indoor farm and separate from the open air. So it is much harder for pests to intrude due to the nature of it being enclosed. Now, if you do grow stuff at home or even on the rooftop, that's where you are more exposed to the outside pests. And so I think that you do have to put in the hard work to remove the pests. There are certain natural remedies you can use. You can spray some natural soaps or organic oils to remove or to keep out the pests. But it is tedious work, especially when you are exposed to the outside environment. So I would not discount the fact that you have to take care of the pest issue if you're growing vegetables at home.
Interesting. So my next question to you, Vincent, is that for our viewers and listeners, say in Singapore, when they hear your conversation, what will be the process if they want to start an urban farm in their home?
Yes. I think this is something that I encourage many Singaporeans to do. And many Singaporeans do have some spaces in their home, whether it's near the window or in their balconies where they can start to grow vegetables. There are various articles online. You could use a box, you could use a container, you could use hydroponic systems. There are grow kits out there. And I would encourage Singaporeans to read up and to learn about the various types of growing systems. I have a good friend of mine having a vertical tower hydroponic system called Aerospring Gardens. I know about Vegipot, which is a horizontal soil-based system that has a form of a netting. And so I think there are a lot of available resources that homeowners can use to grow their crops. And to start with something simple, to speak to more people. And very often, if they can go to their nearby nursery and talk to the owner, they could get advice from there as well.
And what is the kind of yield they can expect? I'm sure you worked out in 10 square foot balcony. What kind of yield can one expect?
I didn't do the numbers for this,
okay.
But I would say that this would likely be a supplement to what you have, unless you have a sizable garden. Then you can actually grow enough for your daily or weekly needs. And so I would say a combination of both growing your own vegetables as well as going to the supermarket and purchasing produce that is grown in Singapore would be a good blend of being connected to healthy and fresh produce.
Interesting. So time for a few more questions, Vincent. Archisen, you said, is currently only in Singapore, or have you expanded beyond the borders of Singapore?
So currently we are only in Singapore. We have an operational commercial farm. Our produce under the Just Produce brand. It's sold in over 30 different platforms. We are in the major supermarkets as well as online and offline retail platforms. We are in supplying to several restaurants and even Michelin star restaurants. We are, however, not outside Singapore yet. We are currently in talks with various parties on how we can expand into various parts of Asia, and that's our focus. And we'll be very happy to speak to your listeners or people out there who are interested to see how they can deploy urban farming or highly productive growing systems in cities in their country.
Amazing. So my last question to you, and this is for all our viewers and listeners, what would you say are 3 key points or 3 key lessons they can take away from our conversation in relation to urban farming?
Yeah, so perhaps I can share it a little bit more generally in terms of lessons that I've learned over the past 10 years running in the startup field. This is actually my second startup.
Okay.
I had my first startup building IoT systems, and then this is my second startup in vertical farming. And I think the first and most important lesson I feel is the importance of building a great team and to be able to work with good and smart people. Because there's so much that you can learn from others if you're willing to take the time to listen and understand their perspectives. And it is so much easier to get things done if everyone is aligned and on the same team. I'm thankful to be able to work with a great bunch of Archians every day. And although we have disagreements, we know that we are all working hard in the interest of a common goal. And this helps build a level of trust and understanding.
Well said.
The second lesson that is important to me over these few years is the importance of being honest, trustworthy, and ethical. Walking down the straight and narrow path is very often the harder option and comes with its headaches and pains. For example, when things go wrong in a company, could be sales or product issues, some business owners choose to hide these issues from their shareholders or stakeholders just to save the trouble. But I've learned that being honest and upfront with things going on in the company, even if they are bad, actually builds a level of trust with the stakeholders. And while people may not be satisfied, there wasn't any persistent negativity, and they actually became more supportive because we were upfront with our issues. And the last thing I've learned over the past few years is the importance of just doing it. There's only so much time that you can ponder and think and discuss about something. And making a bad decision sometimes is better than no decision. And this is especially so when I have tight deadlines, tensions are high and things are stuck. And all these decisions come on a daily basis. For instance, buying equipment, engaging a service, arranging a business structure, or even hiring or letting go of someone. It is important to be able to be decisive and to make decisions quick.
How amazing. Just do it is something that is a great lesson that you have just told us. Vincent, from an IoT startup to farming, what an amazing transition you have made in your 2 startups. But thank you so much for speaking to me. Thank you for talking to me at such length about urban farming and about all the things that go into building an urban farm. And I'm sure after listening to our conversation, a lot of our viewers and listeners will be encouraged to reach out to you and maybe get a kit from you or try and understand how they can start their own urban farm. Thank you again, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much, Ashutosh, and very nice speaking with you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the brand called You Videocast and Podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.